This episode of the Citadel Cafe is brought to you by listeners like you. Visit patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe to find out how you can become a patron and help make this show possible. This is the Citadel Cafe, episode number 304 for Wednesday, January 30th, 2019. My name is Joel Duggan, and the Citadel is my Minecraft server. The Citadel Cafe is this podcast, and that is where my friends and I hang out to talk about the geeky stuff that we are into. Not hard to tell what I was doing right before I hit record on this podcast, is it? And the giggles that you're hearing in the background are from Megan Townsend, who's back again, and you can find her at Megan Townsend on all the social media that matters as soon as she stops laughing at me.
Sorry. That was probably the worst mess up I think I've ever heard you do.
Oh yeah. You know, after I figured I got to give myself some creative license after 300 or so episodes. But yeah, I've done it. I've done it before.
It just kind of threw me through a loop. I was just like, "What's happening? What's going on?" Everything seems different. Anyway.
I normally just read things. And for example, we had speaking of Minecraft, we had Whip on the Spun Chunks on Sunday, and I interchanged how I pronounced his name, despite knowing that it's Whip. It's Fail Whip, but his handle is F Whip, and but if you look at it, it reads as Fwip. But I called him Whip and Fwip at a number of places during the episode, and this is not on me. Johnny had mistyped the designation for the snapshot from 19W4A to 18W04A, and I just read 18. Like I just read the notes, right? Like I didn't think about, because the 18 represents the year, so it was 19 was the correct, right? But it's one of those things where it's like it was in there, and it's weird. Even the other day I was I keep a workout journal. Mostly just to track progress, and honestly it's more of just a reminder. Like it's a stupid little notebook that I bought at the dollar store, really simple, but I leave it open on my dresser, right, which I walk by a couple times a day. So straight up, it's going to remind you, did you work out today? And if you haven't, you haven't, because you haven't written it down. But it also helps with like spring training and getting back into like running and your timing and things like that. Mostly lately it's because I have some back issues, and I have some physio stuff I'm supposed to be doing pretty much daily. And sometimes when you get busy, or if you're not feeling particularly sore, you can forget to do that kind of stuff, or not quote unquote feel like it. So when you're on your way to bed and it's 11:30 and you're like,
I didn't work out
today. And then you have to stop for 20 minutes and do the things that you should do and whatever. Yeah. But the other day,
but also if it's like bad weather like it is right now, I know we're not supposed to talk about weather. Holy crap, it got bad in the last couple days here.
Yeah, and so that it keeps me. I mean, it helps me with tracking all that kind of stuff. However, for the first time this year, January 29th, yesterday when I worked out, I miswrote 2018. That's the one and only time that I've miswritten the year since the new year changed. I'm normally pretty good at it because I have to, I do it a lot for art and stuff like that. And for me, I don't mentally make that mistake when I'm typing. My fingers will, like the muscle memory will hit the wrong key, but I'm intending to hit 9 and I hit 8. It's not like I miss, but when you're writing it down with a piece of paper and a pen, that's when I really just went 2018. I was like, no, it's not 2018, it's 2019. And the first month is gone. It's the end of January already.
Oh no, what happened?
I don't know. I've accomplished nothing.
I don't know if I have. I mean, I did a short film like a few weeks ago. It literally was like a half hour of work because it was like the tiniest little thing. So I guess that's like one thing down, I guess.
Nice.
And I've applied to work on a bunch of other projects and things, but
well, let's talk about that for a minute, because I'm curious. Sure. Yeah, well, you work in entertainment. You do acting and stuff. And, and I'm working. My work is essentially entertainment. It's illustration, but leaning heavily on cartooning. So a lot of the stuff that I get is
like
more
the back end of entertainment.
Well, yeah,
I would say like you're doing like the production process for the entertainment.
Yes, well, or on the other side, it's you're for individuals, it's entertainment budget. So the
Right.
money that people spend on art for themselves or for gifts for family members is the same budget that they use for going to the movies or like
Mm,
doing, or, buying toys, like those kind of things.
right.
So that's the competition that I have in terms of people's pocketbooks. And it is a slow period now too. But I've not been resting on my laurels. Like there's been some RFQs that I've seen circling around. I've applied for different things. I've been receiving and talking with clients, but I've just been noticing so much lately how much time that takes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be one of those hopefully never rains but it pours situations, because really I wouldn't mind it pouring. uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
where like in a month, like everybody's like, hey, congratulations, we've picked you for the thing. And it's like, this is ridiculous. Like, why do I have to fill out 6 and 8 of these things and then have them all come out at once and have those 6 to 8 like RFQs take up my entire work week? Like, if I was
Mm-hmm.
to be a normal human and work from 9 to 5 with a lunch break, then that would have been the only thing I did last week.
Right.
But I had to do that after 5. Like, I had to do other work that was earning me money during the day and then do all
Mm,
this other stuff at night. And I was talking with a friend on Instagram who also runs her own business. And she was saying, like, at least in her industry, there's no haggling. Like it's a service, it's
right.
cost a thing. People are used to it costing a thing, so she doesn't have to worry about that. But she was like, man, I don't envy the contract workers. So
Mm,
like I kind of want to give a shout out and kind of like a fist bump to all my listeners that are freelancers and contract people,
yeah. I mean, it's
because
hardly freelancing it's kind of thankless.
yeah,
Um,
it's
and
a lot of work. Now
it's
there
a
are some
lot of
benefits. I
work.
mean, like I get to work from home when it's snowing sideways, to bring up the weather again.
Right.
But there are a lot of like hours in and stress levels and all this kind of stuff that I think are overlooked with the, we'll say, grass is always greener mentality of someone that, like, trudges to work 9 to 5 and dislikes their day job. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy that I get to do what I do, but there's been a lot of times over the last 5 years. You and I were speaking briefly actually in the pre-show about like the online mentality of like everything being free. And I was in web
Yes.
comics for a long time, and the business model there is that the 8 hours or whatever it is that you put into this thing, whether it's a YouTube video, a song, or a comic, is free. It's your loss leader, and then you have to convince or find other ways for people to support you after that. But
Mm-hmm.
it involves an incredible time investment on the front end. And I feel like, unfortunately, because so much of what we consume now and so much of the services that are out there and businesses that are out there are digital, in that there's not necessarily a real product as much as there is a service.
Right.
Is that the mentality behind, like, well, I don't have to pay for Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, or, I mean, you do, you're paying with your information and your,
Your
sharing
time.
your participation and your time.
Yeah.
But that that notion of like being able to consume and get all this stuff for free really is starting to bleed over into the arts community, I find. and
Which is
and it
garbage.
sucks. And so
Pay
I
your artist, man.
exactly. And I
Yeah.
have been lately, and I wanted to give a shout out to all the people that have been, even if it's not me, if you've been hiring artists, whether that's a musician to compose something for you for your advertisement, or whether it's paying a visual designer or an illustrator like myself to do the cover of your book or whatever like that,
Mhm.
and you've taken the time to research like what the professional fees are for that kind of stuff, then all the power to you. Like, I tip my hat, and it's happened, and it happens even on a lower level. I want to give a shout out to my Twitch community as well, because like this is the thing that baffles me, and this is where I'm going to sound like an old man. So I stream on Twitch. I do both art and video game streams, and I feel like I'm trying to balance them out a little bit more. So it's less of an entertainment stop and watch Joel play Minecraft, but stop and watch Joel do art. And I've done some commission work live on there, stuff that I can share. Sometimes my contract work I can't because it's under NDA, but anything that I can share, and I feel like talking to people while I'm on stream, I do. And I've had people stop by and leave substantial tips, and they're not getting the artwork. They're just there to watch me do the artwork. So
Which is nice,
yeah,
though.
so there are ways to kind of, I guess, I don't want to say double dip. That sounds terrible, but like there are ways to earn content, earn for creating stuff now that did not exist before this level of everything is free or I can tune in because people can tune in to Twitch for free. Like, I mean,
Yes.
I need a computer that does this kind of stuff anyway. You know, to do the Photoshop work that I do, I need this kind of machine. It also happens
Hmm.
to be very good at streaming and very good at visual stuff. So
Hmm.
it makes sense for me. I have access to it, right?
Right.
Uh, but it's one of those things where like I shouldn't be depending on donations and stuff like that as part of my income to subsidize lower than average professional fees. Do you know what I mean? Like
Mm.
I'm being very careful. I don't want to sound ungrateful because all of my clients that I work with you for a reason. It's because I like the work and we've achieved an agreeable thing. I'm not criticizing that. The people that don't have the proper budgets, I don't work with them. you know,
Yeah.
and I'm usually very polite and I educate and say like, look, this is not really kind of you have options, but this is not one of them. And I've been really appreciating the community that I've been finding lately through mostly Minecraft, but through also other means that are willing to and wanting to support independent artists and the stuff that they do, whether it's YouTube or musicians or podcasters or like if you're consuming content and you have an extra buck or two, you know,
Yeah.
then I think that it goes a long way,
Oh, it
a
does.
long way,
It really, really does.
you know, because it adds up. And that's one nice thing about to end on a positive note. One nice thing about this giant kind of like free, you know, mentality of the internet is that
Mm.
you can reach a worldwide audience. Whereas
Yes.
when I tried to submit comics to newspapers in the 2000s, early 2000s, you're submitting, you know, one of 10,000 applications that year, and they choose three, you
Yeah.
know, to syndicate. Like me, the
Yeah.
chances of being seen at all are next to none, right?
See, that reminds me a lot of acting too. Like, and acting is like, especially when you're starting out, it's kind of. I'm actually going to be making a series of videos about this. I think on YouTube, like kind of rebranding the channel a little bit that I have currently, and just sort of touching on these subjects because starting out as for acting, it's like, one of the few jobs I'd say where you spend more money trying to do it than you do making it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess like when you're an actor, you have to pay for headshots, you have to get a demo reel done, you have to, do all these things in order to create like a portfolio for yourself, which is, probably very similar with art and drawing and illustration as
Mm-hmm.
well. Um, but then, like, if you want to have more of an option for, getting seen for roles, you have to sign up in all these different websites now and have a profile in each of these things. And some of them
Yeah.
have like an annual subscription rate. And then if you're a part of the union, you got to pay your union dues. And it's a whole, you know, it's a whole process. And then a majority of the time, if you're a beginner actor, you'll get a lot of student films and they can't pay you. They'll feed you, but they can't pay you. So like they're
Right.
paying you an exposure at that point. So it's one of those few jobs where, like, you know, you want to be able to be paid like a fair wage, but if you don't have enough of a credit or anything, if you're like at that point the experience is almost worth more.
Yeah.
Because it, like, especially right now at the state that I'm in now, I was actually just looking at my resume before we started off, and the three film credits that I have on my resume right now are all stuff that I've done kind of just because I wanted to,
Mm-hmm.
and for the experience, and people who have said like, "Oh, we'll give you a copy of this later."
Yeah. And I think,
And that's something I can add to like reels and stuff at a later time, so people can see the range of stuff that you can do.
yeah.
But it takes a while to get there.
And that's unfortunate. And I don't
Hmm.
know how, with acting, it's different because you can't, because of the amount of people involved to create something of high enough quality to then attract professional paid work. Uh,
Right.
Not necessarily something that you can do on your own. I mean, sure. I mean, you've got, you know, vlogging and you've got, you know, different things that people can do to put themselves out there. But
Right.
um, at least with art, like I can absolutely work for exposure, but I do it for myself. I will work on a personal project. I will do something on my own. I will draw or do something because I feel like it and share that on Instagram or maybe a Twitch stream or something.
Right.
but I don't work for free. Like I don't do. If someone says, "Hey, I've got this great exposure thing," and I say, "That's nice. Have a nice day," and then
Yeah.
and for in visual arts, it's a much harder line, and
Mm,
there's a sterner stance on it lately. Um, artists, the artists that I follow are all generally nice people, but we all talk. So
you're right.
I saw I think he's from Britain. I think it might I don't want to name names just in case I'm getting this wrong, but one of the artists I follow online was not mentioning the name of the company that was attempting to get him to work for either nothing or next to nothing. But
Right.
he was letting them know, like, hey, I'm not going to ransack you publicly, but you can bet your ass that I am talking to all of my comic friends and telling them not to work with you right now. Like it's like it, we talk amongst ourselves. Like we will warn people, no, no, this person has got no budget, or they are terrible to work with, or
Right.
both, and so stay away. And so you will very quickly find yourself in a hard position to try to find people to work with. Now, I'm
Hmm.
curious with acting, like because there's unions, I think, locally as well. Like, do you at
Yes.
certain point do you not have to pay actors, or is that the feeding thing? Is that how they get around it?
Well, it depends. Well, okay, if you're unionized, if you're on a union production, you have to be paid,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to be fed as well. Like
Right.
it can't like depending on how long your shoot day is.
Mm-hmm.
And usually shoot days are like there's no sense. Like time is money, so they'll try and do everything in the shortest amount of time possible, as opposed to stretching it out for a number of days.
Right.
But unions are the few things, like for film unions or acting unions, it's one of the few unions that are actually really really beneficial,
Right.
because it will guarantee that you have you're getting paid a fair wage, you're getting breaks, that you have compensation if anything goes wrong.
Right.
So it's one of the few things that are beneficial for that. But in order to pay for all those things as well, as an actor, you have to pay into dues. Like you have to
Right.
pay your dues
Mm-hmm.
essentially,
Yeah.
um, which depending on the level you are and how much you're making, um, will will change. But it's sort of a like union acting is sort of tricky. Um, and there are some people who like absolutely will not do union. And for a long time, I didn't want to do union because if you are part of the union, you're not supposed to work on things that are non-union.
Right.
If you are a
Yeah.
unionized actor, your production has to be union sanctioned.
Right.
And if it's not, it can be a lot of legal trickery,
Mm-hmm.
that is just way over my head.
Yeah.
And it's probably way too
Restricts
much
your
to get into
options.
right now.
Yeah.
It does, yeah. So right now, like it's a good time for me right now to kind of work on whatever it is I want to work on, because
Right.
if there's a project that comes up, I'm like, I like this, I want to work on this. It's at that point, it's fun for me. It's something that I might get a larger role in, so I can take, with, of course, permission. But that's one of the things I always talk about with people. If I'm working on something and if I'm working on it for free, I'll be like, my one thing is that I need a copy of this. I want to get a copy, and I want to get a master copy.
Mm-hmm.
Not just like, oh, we'll link it to you on YouTube. I'm like, I want a master copy of this.
Right. High quality. Yeah.
Um, like, so I can put it into a reel. And I asked specifically, I'm like, I need something for my reel. Can I get a
Yeah.
master copy for my reel? Um, and like, if they want me to send a contract saying, I won't put it anywhere else, I'll absolutely do that.
Right.
But I just want to make sure I can get at least a good portion, or the full film preferably, so I can pick and choose what my best moments are, because
Yeah.
that's the whole point, is like to show your best self, right?
Yeah. Of course.
So I'd much rather do that, but that's the one thing, like if they can't pay me money, I want a master copy of the film. That's kind of like my rule,
Mm-hmm.
especially if I have a speaking role. If I'm fairly prevalent on camera, I want to make sure that I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But with union stuff, eventually, like you, especially if you're working on a large scale production or a union production, union actors get preference for auditions.
Right.
So even though you may not be able to work on as much, you have preference for auditions for larger scale
Right,
productions.
because then that
Um,
union production runs smoother because they know that all the people that are on it are part of the union, and
exactly,
they have less
exactly.
legal headaches to worry about. Well, that makes
Yeah,
sense. I
yeah.
know that there's not an animation union in this region in the city, and there are in
There
other
should
places.
be.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, I say that I haven't worked in animation for a very very long time, so I'm not the authority on that. But friends
Right.
that I know, and it was talked about even 10, 12 years ago when I was in the industry. But there are unions in other places, like in California, that have benefited the artists that are part of it. Now,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit more poignant in a place like the States where you don't have a healthcare system that will support you regardless of like,
Right.
right, like if you
Yeah.
break your arm, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Whereas if you've got a union, you potentially have, one of the benefits of, organized unions is that you could potentially have health coverage through that union, and that,
Yes.
then you've got, some leeway there if you're not a full-time employee of a large enough company to then have company benefits. But if you're freelancing,
Right.
or if you're contract work, which is a lot of what animation is mostly,
Mm-hmm.
at least last time I checked, then there are other benefits of it. But I mean, all of that said, like there's still a lot of, I think, progress that needs to be made in terms of
I agree.
turning people's. There's been a lot of focus on tech in the last like 10 years, and I'm seeing a lot of really interesting articles and little tweets here and there, and kind of like social comments saying like, yeah, you know what, coding and tech, we all know it's important, we all know the future is based in technology, but here's what an AI can't do: art. So don't push your kids to be, to code and be computer scientists 100%. Like, te-
Yeah.
companies can teach you how to code, like you can learn how to do that, but what
Yeah.
what needs to be fostered is like art, musician,
Creativity and
creativity,
things like that.
creative thinking, thinking outside the box, like all that kind of stuff is stuff that we cannot teach machines.
No.
Machines are going to be able to
No.
code soon enough, right? So,
Yeah.
that kind of thing, I think, is it was a really important point, and it was the thing I saw a lot about the new year. Like people were looking back at 2018, looking forward to 2019, and a lot of the tech shows that I follow would talk about either AI or voice assistants and what they can and can't do and where it's heading. And I thought that was a really interesting point, is that, like
Mm.
where it's not, where they're still miles and miles away, are like artistic endeavors versus technical stuff that can be accomplished actually quite quickly now with voice assistants and stuff like that. So
Right.
anyway, but all of that said, one of the things that we wanted to talk about this week, finally, you and I have both completed watching the season of Titans on
Yeah.
Netflix. I
Yep.
say Netflix in Canada and the rest of the world. I didn't realize it was a DC exclusive in the States.
Oh.
Like, talk about how to hamstring your show. Like, it's a
Oh.
Netflix produced show, or at least it's a Netflix distributed show internationally. But in DC, it's part of their own streaming thing. Yeah, the DC, I can't remember what it's called, Universe Online or Universe Experience or something like that. Yeah,
Oh. That puts a weird taste in my mouth.
yeah. So, and it's not. I mean, it's something that I'm surprised they wouldn't want to have everywhere, right? You would
Yeah.
think, like, for what it is and how difficult to sell it was. Seeing, if you saw the trailers and did not know what we know, and then someone said, "Oh, by the way, you've got to pay for this new service to watch it." I don't think you'd have a lot of people signing up. Whereas I think a lot of
No.
people that have seen it have watched it on Netflix because it's just there, because they're there to watch the Marvel stuff and the Netflix originals and like the
Yeah.
Black Mirror and all that. They're watching Netflix anyway, so they're like, I'll check out Titans. Like, why not? People are talking about
If
it.
I had to pay for a secondary service just to watch it, absolutely no way in hell. I would
No,
never have watched
never have gotten
it.
into it,
Okay.
right?
Sorry, I know we said no F bombs. I'm sorry.
Well, there's no F bombs. I didn't hear an F bomb.
Okay.
Maybe Discord cut
I
out at just the right second.
okay, I said one. So oops. As soon as I said it, I was like, it's like one of those things where you try, like, you see the words coming out of your mouth and you try and catch them before they're gone, but it's like they're already out. That's oops.
Yeah, so I
Well,
don't want
hopefully I
to.
cut out at the right time.
Yeah, I don't want to beat a dead horse, so I won't be saying a whole lot about it because I think I covered a lot of the general kind of feeling from the show in the last couple episodes. But lots of
Mm,
people are talking about it, and I wanted to get your take on it because you have spent a lot of time with the comics and are a fan of the
yeah.
general property and are more of a DC person than I am in
Mm,
every way. So I wanted to kind of get your 2 cents on it. So we'll get into it in the show. We'll probably have a little bit of an extra bit afterwards, and maybe the burst cut for the Citadel Cafe members over on Patreon. So stay tuned for that. But this is going to be full of spoilers. We're not going to hold back. So if you
Oh
are
yeah.
watching or have not watched and you do want to, then just tune out and come back to this episode later because we just don't want to have to tiptoe around all this stuff that we want to talk about. So, Megan, when you were watching it, like I had mentioned to you, I think in a text, like you got to give it like 3 or 4 episodes. So
Yeah, you also said that last week as well. You
yeah.
got to
So
watch at least four.
so at what point did you finish the whole series?
I did.
And at what point did those first episodes start to change for you? Like when did you feel the
You know what?
things
I
start to
don't know if
switch?
it ever did. I kind
Oh,
of just,
really?
it's one of
Okay.
those things where I just kind of kept watching because I was like, well, I got to see what happens.
Hmm.
But I don't know if it's like because I was enjoying it, if it was like a train wreck and you couldn't look away.
I can see both. Yeah.
um, and so like I I will say, I will begrudgingly admit, it is way better than I ever expected it to be. I
Right.
expected
Yeah.
so much worse, like
Yeah.
a lot worse. However, I still I don't I get why they went for the route that they did, but at the same time I don't know if I like that they had to go that route. Like they felt like they needed to go the dark, gritty, everything is terrible doom and gloom route.
Mm.
And I get that makes for good TV. But I don't I'm trying to think of another way they could have possibly done it, and I don't think they could have. So I think with, the route that they went, they did a fairly good job, but it just I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of weird characterization there. The whole Dick Grayson drove me nuts, which makes me really sad because I love Dick Grayson. I think he's one of my
Really?
favorite characters. Yes, I
Okay.
love Dick Grayson as a comic book character. He's fantastic. I think more so as Nightwing. I think I'm more familiar with him like as
Right.
an older character.
Not so lost.
Um,
He's pretty lost in this
yeah, but
series.
he's a pretty happy-go-lucky dude in general. Like for a kid who's lost his parents at a very
Wisecracking. Yeah.
relatively, yeah, he's pretty wisecracking. But it's at one point he takes over for Batman. Like Bruce is like missing at one point in the comics,
Right.
and this is when Bruce's son Damian is taking over as Robin. So, usually you get like big moody Batman and kind of happy-go-lucky quippy Robin. But when Dick takes over, it's kind of like quippy happy-go-lucky Batman with a really really serious Robin, which is really really funny. And someone I guess snapped a picture of Dick as Batman, and someone's like, "Batman's smiling. What happened? Like, what's going on?" Um, so I think the whole I'm really dark, broody, I'm taken after Bruce sort of mentality just it doesn't quite lend to Dick's character.
Hmm.
I think if you're unfamiliar with the comics entirely, sure, fine, whatever, it makes
Hmm.
sense. You got to have a broody, protagonist, I guess. But
Yeah.
you also don't. I'm gonna like I don't know. It's not super necessary. Again, I guess it makes good for good TV, but like at the same time, it was too much. I think there's a point where it can you can come through it. But I guess I don't know. Again, it's really hard for me to articulate my thoughts about it because
Yeah.
there's just so many going on in my brain at once that
I
I'm just
think
trying to
I think what they tried
pinpoint
to do and
something.
unfortunately
But
failed is that Rachel and her story as Raven is supposed to be very dark and very demonic and have all this
yeah,
dark like world-ending universe twisting powers and all this kind of stuff. And
right.
but the character is written so young and naive and um, well-meaning that
Yes.
that her dark side just comes off as this like Alice in Wonderland sort of like mirror flip. And
Yeah.
so they get the gritty into the conversation by making Dick Grayson this, guy that's dealing with the violence that he can't control, which I think is crap. Like if
Yes.
if anything that you learned training with Batman, control was probably the first thing. like I
Yeah.
can't getting
Yeah.
not being able to get a handle on the violence. No, I don't think that that's really a thing. I think that's a weak reason.
It is.
I
Yeah.
can I think you could have given Robin, Dick Grayson a whole host of other reasons to get out from underneath of the mantle of Batman. You know, and
Well,
and they don't have to be positive, but they don't necessarily have to be like I can't stop beating people up. Like that to me just seems
yeah. No, that's yeah. That
interesting.
was a stupid reason. I know,
Yeah.
and I know there was a reason in the comics for it. Like I think Dick was just outgrowing Robin.
Yeah.
and Bruce was not able to, like was having it was like doing that like empty nester parent thing where they're just not able to let their kid go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then was a little bit kind of assholey about it when he did leave. So like there is like a little bit of discourse between Dick and Bruce even in the comics, but they eventually come together. They kind of get over it eventually.
Right.
Like they do
Yeah.
make amends, obviously, because Dick takes over as Batman, and
Yeah.
he's still I think technically he becomes part of the Justice League at one point, and um but and like in other media, like if I'm thinking of Teen Titans, like the original,
Yeah.
not Teen Titans Go, Robin was pretty broody and dark at some points though, not all the time. And I
Yeah.
think he got a little bit too obsessed with trying to like figure this one thing out and got in too deep and caused all this trouble. And I feel like that kind of did happen with this a little bit. So that's there was some things that were true to character, but like this constant like you know I don't know who I am anymore just
Yeah.
didn't quite. I don't know. It
No.
didn't work. Like if there's one thing about Dick Grayson, he always kind of was really solid about who he was and what he stood for and what he
Yeah.
wanted.
And I think that's
And
why they're
this,
it's kind of a prequel. Like they're kind of writing into this gray area that hasn't been
yeah,
addressed before to give themselves that leeway and that flexibility. I
yes,
think too that unfortunately across the board, with the exceptions of maybe Beast Boy, that all of the main four characters are one note the entire season. Like they
yeah,
just there's not a, they are acting not well. I'm not laying it at the feet of the actor. They are written in a very small box, and they stay in that box
yes,
for the entire season.
I agree.
And it's not great. The only character that seems to have some ups and downs where they involve some levity, even though it's poorly written, is Beast Boy. He jokes
Yeah,
around. He's a little goofy. The thing that I think is offset of that is he's acting like he's 12, but he's clearly like
an
18 or he's
adult.
adult.
Yeah,
So I would be okay if he was a little bit more college bro, like if he was a little bit more chummy and fun, but in an adult way, not in a
yeah.
childlike way. Because
Or
it
they should have aged him down.
yeah, or choose
Maybe
an
should
actor
have
that
been a
was
younger
younger.
actor.
Have an
Yeah.
actor that was the same age as the actor that plays Rachel. Unfortunately, I forgot to open IMDb. I think I've mentioned them all before, but yeah, like I as far as the acting goes, I thought for the most part it was pretty well done. Like I didn't have
Delivery was good. Like
yeah
delivery and what they were given to work with, not bad.
no
I didn't have any issue with anyone's performances. I think everything that came out of it was like, okay, why was this written though? Like why was this moment chosen to be added in here?
hmm
Um, so I think that's what I had with it. I actually liked the take on Corey a little bit.
okay.
Um,
So for
I
people that
think
aren't
the
familiar,
personality.
what are the major differences between Corey in the show and Corey in the comics?
Well, she never. I don't think it's possible for Tamaranians to get amnesia.
Okay,
I'm
so
not a
that
fan
was
of
just
any
a
sort of
poor
amnesia timeline.
yeah
Yeah, I feel like amnesia storylines are so overdone and so troped anyway that
oh
like as
it's
soon as that
1980s
happened, I was
soap
like,
operas for
oh,
sure.
okay, we're doing this one again. Great. And
Yep.
I know it's a big thing in comics. I know
Yeah.
it's a huge thing in comics. So if they're trying to like pull from like source material, great. I don't think it's possible for Starfire's race of Tamaranian aliens to actually get that because they can get hit by a bus and still survive.
Yeah.
So if for them to lose their memories about who they are seems
And they never
really
explain.
just.
They
They
never
never explained how. They never
how.
explained how it happened. She woke up in a car accident. That's gonna do dick all to her.
Yeah. Not to
She could
mention
get hit
the
by a bus and be fine.
yeah, not to mention
Like
the fact that it completely stints her character and dialogue for like the last half of the season. Like
I
all she
know.
does is walk around going like, I have to go here because I just know. It's like, how do you know? You've lost your
Yeah,
memory. You don't know
yeah,
anything. Stop.
yeah,
It's like, why do you have to go there? And this is where you kind of want her to break character like Deadpool and go, because this is where the script says I have to walk through this door
yeah,
because the spaceship is behind there. And if we don't go in
yeah.
there, then the audience doesn't know that I'm an alien. Like it's so
Yeah,
contrived and so
it is
boring.
really
Yeah,
contrived.
like
Yeah.
it really does not help at all. And I remember the scene when they're at the farmhouse or the old homestead where Rachel is using her powers that she's learning how to use uh,
Mm-hmm.
to um, to heal her, to try and heal her brain and give her back her
Right.
memories. And I thought, finally she's going to
You
unlock
could
it.
have done this like
And they
forever ago.
didn't. They only unlocked like 10%. I was like, how did that not work? Like, how
Enough
did
to
that?
create enough conflict for her to like, oh, I gotta kill Rachel
Uh,
now.
but you still don't know why.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it was so poorly done. Like, for all the positive stuff that I've been saying about the series, mostly because I want people to watch it and form their own opinions, and
Yes.
I want them to get points for being different, and I want them to get points for having high production value. Because I mean, it was
Mhm.
not a hard show to watch. I was not tuning
No,
out. I
it
was
looked
not.
good.
Yeah,
It
like
looked like it looked really good. I think my one beef is with Starfire's costume design.
oh,
Like
terrible. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
get like the first outfit because she's coming back from a club. She's coming
Yes,
back from a disco club.
yes.
I like the whole you know what the soundtrack was amazing. The soundtrack was really
Also very
excellent. I
good.
like how
Yes.
everyone had a very particular kind of music, and Starfire for whatever reason had disco. I
Mm-hmm.
was kind of into it. I liked it because I
Yeah.
think, you know, she was introduced in the 80s when disco was pretty prevalent, um
Some
and
nice
like,
inside baseball for fans, right?
or 70s. Sorry?
Some nice inside baseball for fans.
Yeah. Um and so like she was always in like, you know, these kind of disco outfits, but eventually they just got more, like the first one was fine, but then they just got more and more shiny,
Yeah.
and I didn't know why they were there. It's like, okay, you could have changed into literally anything else. Why are you sticking with this purple disco garb?
Mm-hmm.
You can
Yeah.
it's not practical.
No.
Change it up maybe.
What's
And
the
like
thing?
she stayed in the same outfit for like 6 days.
Yeah. In
Like she just
2019
didn't
too, it's just
change.
like the
I
costume
know.
design is just like, how are we still doing mini skirts on superheroes like this? I don't understand. I
Yeah,
don't get it.
I don't know.
Speaking of
But as
costumes,
far as,
sorry, go ahead.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No,
I
no.
was gonna say, as far as like casting choices though, I thought she was really great. A lot of people had a lot of beef with how she looked. To be fair, the promotional photos that were leaked, like set photos, did not do it justice. It did not look good. And I was really worried about her hair for the longest time, but it was a bad angle. I actually really liked it.
Yeah.
In the show, like it was, you know, it made sense, and she looked really great. A lot of the beef that people had with her being cast, I think, was the fact, I think it's a race issue personally. I think
Oh,
it's like, oh, she's
probably.
black and Starfire is supposed to be orange, and it's like, if you cast someone with an orange undertone to their skin, you know, it's great. You can either get a white lady and paint her orange, or get a dark lady who has an orange undertone anyway. It's either
Yeah.
way. But she looked fantastic. I thought she looked really great.
Yeah.
I liked how kind of sassy she was,
Yep.
because I find that sometimes, like, you know, my first introduction to Starfire was again Teen Titans, and she was a little bit naive and, like, you know, new to the planet and not really sure what was going on, but was still
Mm-hmm.
kind of learning as she went. Um, and in comics, she's similar, but she's more adult about it. Like, you know, she sometimes doesn't understand social cues. So like she'll, you know, when her and, you know, Dick eventually get into a relationship, which is canonical
Oh,
in
is it really?
comics.
Okay.
It is, yeah. So they actually have a daughter at some point.
Oh, no kidding.
And I don't
Okay.
remember what her name is, but they have a daughter, but she is, I think her name is either Starwing or
I'll
Nightfire. I
I'll
can't
look it up.
remember. It's like a combination of like Starfire and Nightwing, for like superhero name. But yeah, they do have a daughter,
Nightstar.
and Nightstar. Yeah. Um, and so they are a couple, but I guess in some comic books, like, you know, she'll accidentally, you know, comment on the fact that, you know, Dick will do something that, you know, she likes in bed or whatever, and he's like, Corey, we're in public, you can't say these things. And it's, I don't know, like she just doesn't understand like privacy, I guess. It's not a thing on
Right.
Tamaran, so she just kind of like says stuff that's on her mind. um and sometimes I think she knows that she's doing it to be kind of a dick, but it's I don't know. So I liked her sass, but the whole amnesia trope was just not
Yeah.
good, and no, I wasn't into that at all.
Jeez, the DC costume for Nightstar is not much better than Mom's, by the way.
No.
No, no,
Yeah, they kind of.
the neck. I mean, it's obvious. It's very 90s. Like the neckline goes down to her belly button.
Yeah. Yeah.
Holy smoke!
Yeah.
Oh boy, and that's something that I liked, like, you know, Robin's costume, and I thought
Hmm.
that they handle everything else because Beast Boy is usually just in a hoodie, anyways, from the pop culture stuff that I've seen, and
Yeah. Or like a
I
dark suit of some
dark
kind
suit,
anyway.
you know.
So
Now they
yeah.
gave Starfire a really nice kind of serious looking pantsuit kind of reminded me of like X-Men from the 90s, where it's just like, black from head to toe with like some accents and stuff. And
Is that from like
the last episode or
the
two,
last episode? Yeah, and I
which,
really liked it. I
yeah,
missed her though. I kind of wish she'd left her hair, but she's also trying to blend in because I
Ben
guess
blended in a little bit more.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's not trying
Yeah.
to be the say that she's a
Yeah.
Tamarinian. That woman is tall though. She's a tall lady.
She is, well, that,
She's
or the guy that plays Grayson is not super tall.
no.
Yeah.
I also just think she's a super tall woman.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I liked her look. I liked her design.
Mm-hmm.
And when you first saw her, eventually her costume designs later, like the other purple suits that she was wearing,
Mm.
just different variations of the first one, not good.
No.
But for the most part, like she wasn't too bad. I liked Raven's look too. Like she worked. Like everyone's look was really great.
They
I
had
think
these nice subtle hints, like,
they did.
Rachel
Yeah.
had little purple tips on her hair, and in the comic she wears like a big purple cloak. So
Yeah.
they gave her the right kind of color accents in her regular clothing or her
Yeah,
hair.
and she has like a lot of like red diamond things, like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
red, wore a necklace with like a little red jewel on it
Mm-hmm.
at one point. Sorry, I just hit my microphone there. And yeah, no, I really liked the color choices. Like it was, even though it's dark, it was still very colorful.
Yes,
Which
yeah,
which I liked. They
and
didn't shy away from color.
no, and they certainly brought a lot of that into that episode 4 with the Doom Patrol, where you get introduced to Beast Boy and you
I
meet all those other characters.
love the Doom Patrol. Actually, that was a really interesting episode. I was like, okay, all right, because that's like they're a group that was really kind of forgotten about, I think.
Mm-hmm. And Lou was saying on a previous episode that apparently they had so much fun filming that episode that they're trying to, get an entire show made with those characters. I'd be on board if it's not a superhero show. I want it to be like a situation comedy, like a
yeah,
maybe not like a Friends sitcom, but like an hour long kind of like dry. It's drama, but it's meant to be like these people are weird and
yeah, they're just wacky people.
yeah, they're going to be helping some person out that's got some strange powers, but it's going to be more about interpersonal relationships and joshing with one another. It's not so much making jokes, but but having the kind of interactions that you saw from these people that are shut in and living with one another for for the whole for their entire lives or their entire lives on this estate. And as long as it's not one note, like as long as the robot guy is always, if he's always pulling the Eeyore card about not being able to taste food or feel people, skin, like shake a hand or give a high five, then that's going to get old real fast. But I can understand some of the other characters being a little bit more well-rounded, and I liked the personality of, I don't remember what his name was, but he was the invisible guy that was all wrapped up in like mummy wrap, and he was the cook.
Oh yeah, he was
like
great.
Jared or something. Like he doesn't have a superhero name. It's like what's that?
He was a pilot.
Right, but he didn't have like a superhero handle, right? Like everybody's just called Bill or Ben or Jimmy or whatever.
Yeah.
But he was great because like he's in the kitchen, he's like dancing, he's like air guitar playing to AC/DC. Like there's all these different things.
Again, soundtrack.
Yeah.
So good.
So different than the other 2 or 3 episodes that you see before it, right? Like it's such a tonal shift that it fit, but it doesn't fit at the same time. And I can see them spinning that off into their own show. Which, I mean, to go back on the other's negative side of things, I also felt that they were really ham-fisting Hawk and Dove into the Titans series. I could have dealt without them. Sure, have them be superheroes, have them be old friends of Dick's. I don't need to see them do super stuff. I don't need to even, they should be retired. Like they should be people that Dick depends on as friends, not really dumb superheroes with stupid looking costumes.
Yeah.
Like it was just ridiculous.
I mean, like I've read some Hawk and Dove stuff, and I think I like them as a couple. I think I like them as characters, but I feel like there's going to be more involved. Like I'm actually, they weren't my least favorite thing. They weren't my favorite thing, but they weren't my least favorite thing. And I was excited to see other heroes, like other non-super powered superheroes, like just average people who just kind of had a very large skill set. I didn't mind them. I didn't love them, but I didn't mind them, and I'm interested to see where they take it. Because I'm pretty sure they ended up as part of like the Teen Titans at one point.
Maybe, yeah.
I think.
Good actors. Like they're screen presence and everything was
Yeah,
great. It's just it was the
Minka
characters that I had a
Kelly is
real problem.
Dove, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
so
really
they
didn't
did
like
have
her
some.
mask. That was the biggest issue that I had. I thought
Yeah,
it
no,
just
it was not
it
good.
there was no suspension of like, yeah, this could maybe go. It's like, nope, this is just super dumb.
Yeah,
It's
no,
it's very
it's
similar to how uh when Robin arrives and he's got just a mask over his face, and everybody that just saw Dick 10 minutes ago is like, holy crap, Dick's Robin? Like the mask does nothing, right? Like it's just
it does
it does
nothing.
it doesn't hide his hair, like nothing like that.
No.
And they point that out, which I think is great. So then I don't know why they have Minka Kelly in this stupid outfit and mask when really, and the whole show is so dark with the exception of Doom Patrol, but then Hawk and Dove are very much more tied to the main storyline, yet they are this bright cartoonish, like over the top, like blue and white and red and gray. Like it's really
Yeah.
really out there. Also, Alan Richson, who plays Hawk, and Hank
Hmm.
Hawk, I think is his name. Hank, what's
No,
his name?
Hank. I don't
Hall,
remember. Hank
Hall.
Hall.
Hank Hall is the
Hank
character's
Hall
name.
and
Yeah,
Don.
that
I
dude
don't
makes me
remember.
feel out of shape.
Yeah, he's huge.
He is
He's a huge dude.
built, built.
Yeah.
He played Aquaman in Smallville years and years and years ago.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, and it was fun because like he comes on and he's like he's the well he's back then he was a lot younger and but still very built. But I when I was training in university, I used to work out with the swim team, not in the pool but in the weight room,
Mm-hmm.
and you can kind of spot it from a mile away once you kind of have trained with these kind of athletes. I would put money on the fact that he was a competitive swimmer for most of his young life. Just
Yeah.
the way that he's built like a bat. Like
Yeah.
he's so
Yeah.
wide. He's just
Yeah.
huge. And I mean, it's one of those things you're like, man, he's a good actor. He's got the right build. He could be in a great superhero show. Why? Why is
Yeah.
he Hawk? Like, God.
Again, I don't mind Hawk so much, but I was really confused about the level of involvement that they had, and
Yeah.
it really didn't add anything to the overall story aside for, you know, being a conflict thing and
Mm-hmm.
having an option for Rachel to meet other people.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all I got out of it. But so I feel like there's gonna be. I'm trying to think big picture. I know,
Mm.
like I'm thinking very small picture right now, and I'm trying to think bigger picture, where I'm sure that the small introduction of this thing now is going to lend itself to something better later.
Yeah.
I'm hoping. Now, people have said that, like, shows have been like, oh, yeah, we did this thing is like, a piece of foreshadowing for, an event in season 3 or 4.
Mm.
And on one hand, great. On the other hand, it's like, if you don't deliver that, it's just going to be stupid at that point, right? So I think
Yeah.
it's one of those. I think we were talking last week about like sagging middle story syndrome or
Yeah.
something.
Oh, and this they suffer
Um,
from it big time.
yeah, and it does lag kind of halfway in the middle there. But I don't know.
It picks back up
I'm
when Donna Troy is introduced.
Oh my god. I don't know if I'm just really biased in the sense that anything to do with the Amazons I am just all about, but I loved Donna Troy. As soon as she came into the picture, I was just like, I'm here for this. I'm so here for this. She was a great character. She had this moment. It wasn't said this way, but like when Dick was having a heart to heart with her and saying like I can't be Robin anymore because this is just after Jason Todd was introduced as the new
Mm-hmm.
Robin.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, but I can't be Batman. And Donna just had a lot of, so be someone else, Dick.
Mm.
I don't know. I just had a lot of like energy of just like, so figure it out, do something.
Yeah.
Don't just sit here moping about it. Like she just kind of slapped him in the face and was just like, do your thing. Just figure it out. Just stop being an asshole about it.
Figure out a way to make your own rules and do it your way, which is
Yes.
essentially what she's done, right? Like she didn't quit being Wonder Girl is the superhero.
Wonder Girl.
Yeah. So which is Wonder Woman's sidekick, right? Like that's the
Yeah.
So she didn't stop being Wonder Girl, but she decided that she could do more good as Donna Troy as a
Yes.
photographic journalist, and she was
Yes.
attempting to take down a hunting.
Yeah. Like
animal cruelty or illegal hunting poaching ring.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
she was trying to do that. And so that's something that she couldn't do as well as Wonder Girl because
Yeah.
she can only punch and kick so many bad guys, whereas, she could take an entire organization down with enough proof and, not lawsuits. What am I thinking of? Like charges, criminal charges. Like if she can get somebody indicted, then she can just take them all down, right? Because no matter what, superheroes at least Donna Troy and the big superheroes don't kill anybody. So whether or not they get knocked out or put in jail for the rest of their life, they don't care. And if one is more efficient than the other, then she seemed to be very articulate about that. Well written character. She didn't walk in and go, "I'm Wonder Girl." Like she kind of lots of
She kind
little hints.
yeah, she kind of just very gently came in, but then
Yeah.
made a really, really strong impact. So if there's any character that, um, you know, I think was the best overall, definitely think it was Donna.
Hmm.
100%, I think it was Donna.
Yeah. I
Um,
had some complaints about Grayson later on. I really enjoyed
yeah,
the actor and I enjoyed the way that they kind of portrayed him, but the his arc for the season really didn't do much for me in the end. I was very curious for the first half. I was there for it for the first half, especially when he comes to the realization that he's trying to protect Rachel after she
yes,
loses her caregivers, which is very much the echo of Batman taking him in. And once
yes,
he realized that, he's like, I don't want this, but here I am doing it. And you can see him start to learn stuff very quickly, over the course of
yes.
the season. And I liked that softness to him, and I liked that kind of direction. But then they just hamstring it, and it goes nowhere fast.
I
And
know it ruined it so much because, like, again, Dick is a pretty happy-go-lucky guy. He's a
yeah,
pretty caring guy. He's,
yeah,
you know, being an orphan, he kind of looks after orphans, and it's like this thing that Bruce also does as well. Like,
yeah.
it's like that's the one, if he's like, if there's anything I learned from Bruce, it would be, taking care of kids,
Hmm.
who didn't have anyone to look after them, and I just they ruined it. It was ruined,
Yeah. That
and
last
the
episode
ending
was
was.
terrible.
I wouldn't say it was terrible, but it wasn't good, and it didn't end on a good note. And I'm
No.
not just saying because it ended poor, like a bad thing
Yeah.
happened at the end. It was more just I don't know. I had a minute where I was watching it, and like, so you find Rachel's real mom eventually,
Yeah.
and at the end, like when all
Who I
the weird
liked.
shit starts happening in the house, yeah, it wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
When all the weird shit starts happening in the house, though, and she immediately just kind of like totally changes personality and kind of acts a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
Like first she's like pretty normal seeming, and then she is really nice and sweet, and then when all the bad things start happening, she's like, now we can bring him
Yeah.
to the world, and it's like, okay, whoa, did you
Yeah.
just get possessed? Like what happened
Yeah.
to you?
It's a
So
bit
like
it's a
it just all just.
it's you're surprised that Rachel doesn't see through it. Like it's a little on the nose. The only thing that
I
I would
mean,
say about it is that for Rachel Nichols, who I really liked as the character, it took me a minute to recognize her actually.
mm,
But I thought that they both for the character's writing and her portrayal, they did a really nice balance of like walking that she's just a little bit too sweet. Like something about her is just rubbing me the wrong way. Like the first time you
yeah,
meet her, you don't think, oh, bad guy. Like, she's the plot twist. Like you don't think that the moment that you meet her. But it's only until not until like the last episode or two where you're like, oh, wait a minute, this is she's starting to get creepy. And
yeah,
but it's very, very subtle. And I think they did that well because a lot of times in
I
these
agree.
shows, that person walks in and they're like, well, hello, dear. And you go, oh, God, bad guy. Like, absolute. Like,
Yeah.
I know that
So
is the bad person, right?
the nuclear family was one of the things that really really got me with that. Like the whole mom, dad, brother, sister group.
Right.
They are they're a group called the Nuclear Family, and they're kind of modeled after this. I think the doctor they end up kidnapping. They're modeled after his family because his whole family died in some kind of nuclear accident,
Oh,
and as
okay.
like a way of being obsessed, he kind of rebuilt them all as robots. But in this show, they kind of took it as like a brainwashing thing. They just found people of no consequence and brainwashed them. So they literally they're just called dad, mom, brother, sister,
Right.
or bro and sis. Like they don't really have any names. So like by the end of it, where they were like, the doctor was like, we got to get you a new dad after Corey killed the first one. They were like,
Right.
okay. And then when he showed up, they're all just like, hi dad, like he's like, hi
Mm-hmm.
troops, like I don't know, they were weird, but it was as soon as I saw them and how sweet they were and how like picturesque, perfect, like 50s happy family they were, I was like, these guys are evil
Oh,
right away.
yes. Oh,
It's
yeah.
like
No,
one of
that
those
that that
moments.
was super clear. But that's
Yeah.
super clear in the weird way. Like
Yes.
it's the evangelical, people that knock on your door, kind of creepy. It's the the name tag missionary. You know, like
Yes.
it's that really invading personal space, personal belief, sort of like no one is this happy all the time.
Yeah.
Sort
Yeah.
of like weirdness, like what is wrong with you?
Super,
Uh,
super weird.
yeah, it just there's it's well, it's I think the disconnect is that there's so much shit happening in the real world today that no one walks around with that much just 50s gusto. Like it's just
Yes.
that is not the Second World War did not just end a couple of years ago, and everybody is not just peachy. And
Right.
I feel like I really enjoyed them because of how disconnected they were from what they were doing.
And I really like them for that reason too.
Yeah.
And again, like the music choices, like everyone had like a theme. So like Starfire was very disco.
Yep.
They were very like, happy campy 50s music.
Yep.
Dick Grayson was a little bit more like, kind of, rocky,
Mm-hmm.
kind of. I don't know, like the music really really set the tone for a lot of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the things, like production wise, that I really really liked. You could tell who was coming up, like even if you didn't see them, based on the music that was playing in a car, because
Yeah.
everyone was driving cars at different points. So whatever the music was going on, you're like, okay, this is this group, and I liked that. I liked those audio cues a
Mm-hmm.
lot,
I was I was
especially for design.
I was disappointed that we get to see Trigon at the end, because they never call him Trigon, they just call him Rachel's dad. But
Yeah.
I I had no idea who it was. I had to look up who that was once they revealed that Trigon was the name. Um, Actually, no, they do call him Trigon because it's on the ship where Corey kind of gives the exposition about like what the whole plot
Oh, right,
has
right,
been,
right,
right? And I had to go look
right.
it up, and I was like, oh god, it's one of these DC villains that's like world destroyer, demon, magic, transdimensional being. I was like, oh god,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like,
Well, I mean, and he is though. Like, I mean, that is,
oh, I'm not. It's
you
not the
know,
show I'm criticizing. That's DC Comics. I'm just like, oh,
yeah.
really? Like, I'm okay with the Teen Titans just fighting bank robbers. Like, it's
I'm okay with. You know what I would love to see though, because like to this day, I think one of the scariest villains in any sort of DC thing that I'd ever seen was, again, in Teen Titans. I don't know, like my whole, again, Teen Titans really really shaped my perspective of Titans in general, like of those characters, because they were such a, I think, a prevalent example of them, because they were super comic book close, but also quirky enough for TV,
mm.
and really really colorful. But they had Slade. Um,
Oh,
Slade was like the
Slade
main
Wilson.
villain of, yeah.
Mm. I
Um,
remember that from the animated series now. Yeah.
yeah, but he was terrifying in the sense that like you didn't know, you knew that he was up to no good. You didn't know what he was up to though, and you didn't know
Mm-hmm.
what he looked like. And you only saw one of his eyes. He wore this mask that only had one, you could see one eye,
Yeah.
and that was
The
it. And it was like, as a kid it was scary.
I can't.
Watching it again, it was like, it's still kind of unnerving though.
Yeah, I can't remember. I can't remember what it was. I think it might have been uh the Batman Arkham series, like that whole one of those 4 or 5 games that came out with Batman as in the video games, where Slade Wilson is in it. And
Mm,
some character, whether it's a police officer or Alfred or even Bruce Wayne, refers to Deathstroke, because that's his name, right?
yeah.
It's Deathstroke. He's got all the same training and all the same skills as Batman, but none of the rules. And you're just like, "Whoa, wow."
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So that's why it was such an, for some reason, it was such an interesting thing with, in Teen Titans, with like Robin and,
Mm,
um and and well, they just called him Slade. They just had it as Slade.
mm.
Because I think Deathstroke sounded a little bit campy.
Yeah, no,
And
and
Slade sounds a little
yeah.
bit more like, ooh,
Well,
what's that?
and in Batman, when you're behind the scenes in Batman stories, generally, I would say generally he'll refer to them by their real names, right? Like
Yes.
if he
Yeah.
knows them, like they don't
Yes.
call. I can't remember the name of the ventriloquist dummy guy, but he doesn't call him um, by his superhero name. He calls him by like Doctor whatever, or like whatever the guy's real name is in real life, because he's a
Yeah.
detective. Like he's got the goods on everybody.
Right.
Right on. Well, we should probably move on into the Internet Minute. That is brought to you by you, dear listener. That is a place where you can go to support the show, and that is called Patreon. Patreon.com/The Citadel Cafe. If you head over there, you can check out different levels at which you can support the podcast. You will be eternally in my good graces because I think it's a fantastic thing that you can keep the show ad free. You can support independent podcasting. And hey, while you're over there, look for other podcasts that you might want to support as well because there are a lot of creators out there use Patreon to help make the show possible. There is an entry into the patron only Discord if you decide to support the show. That's where myself and Megan and some friends talk about some geeky stuff all week long. There's been a lot of Lego chat lately, which is always fun. As well as some new trailers, and we're looking forward to some of the new Marvel stuff that's coming out too soon as well. So that is patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe. My pick for this week is a creator of her own right. Her name is Erin Sullivan. I thought I had this written down, but I guess I moved it. I just gotta double check this, but Erin Outdoors on Instagram, if you have not already figured that out. And I would highly, highly recommend people go follow Erin Outdoors. She is a traveling photographer, a writer, and she focuses on culture and wildlife and conservation. Also conversation. She does both. I really enjoy her stories. She is very personable. She does these great adventures. Obviously, she's a phenomenal photographer. Like holy smoke! You don't actually see as much of it in her stories as I wish you would. Like you really have to go to her Instagram feed to see the really phenomenal photography that she does, and check out her website, which is erinOutdoors.com. But she's a Sony Alpha ambassador, so she is in part, or I don't know at what level, but she's endorsed and supported by Sony and their camera gear. But the thing that I wanted to kind of get across about Erin, beyond just the phenomenal work that she does, is just she is just 100% a lovely person. There is nothing fake or like when I say influencer, like I say that with quotation marks, and that's my old man, millennial
Yeah.
quotation mark. I don't want to say all of them are bad, but it does kind of have a negative connotation sometimes these days. But Erin is one of these people that just has a sincerity about not only what she's doing, but how she delivers it. Like she's open and she'll share things about creative bumps in the road, but she doesn't overshare. Like I don't feel awkward when she does her videos. It's not necessarily always positive, but it's always about the positive other side. Like if you're having a dark
Mm.
day, I've had those too. Here's how, I might have gotten past it, or like, nah, it's okay. Tomorrow's a different day. And for whatever reason, she's managed to grasp the way to do it without sounding like a motivational bullshit quote that you
Yes.
block instantly on Facebook. Like it's
Yeah.
like she doesn't do that. She just has real conversations. I mean, sometimes it's with her phone on stories, and she does vlogs and blogging and stuff like that. But I can't recommend following her on Instagram enough. And on her website, one of the blogs posts that I read recently was Deep Thoughts from 2018, and I thought that was a really well written post, just about kind of reflecting over the year and looking ahead. All again, like not floofy, like it's real advice, and yes, it's sometimes spiritual and sometimes introspective, but it's not like be the best that you can be, with the
Mm.
atomic family wink, like you know
Yeah.
it's got some practical advice like do the work you want to get hired for. Work is just one part of what you do. And she's got these paragraphs that kind of outline and delve into these things a little bit farther. But she also does a lot of travel organization. Like she has trips where she organizes trips to Greece for photographers and artists. And the idea is that you kind of go with a bunch of strangers and it's a curated trip where they take care of a lot of that kind of stuff for you. And then you can go from there. And she's usually advertising and talking about those. But man, like just the stuff that she puts out there is positive and real and a lot of fun. And it's nice to see this kind of thing in all of the doom and gloom that I mentioned very briefly earlier.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, check it out. Erin Outdoors on Instagram. I'll have the links and stuff like that in the show notes.
Her
And
photos are very bright. They all have like a
oh,
really nice brightness and
so
color to
pretty.
them.
I'm
Yeah.
jealous. I'm jealous of the Africa stuff with the animals and the
Yeah,
Sahara and oh
I
my
just saw the lions
gosh,
and stuff. Oh my goodness.
so good, so good. Anyway, so that's my pick this week, and that brings us to the end of this episode of the Citadel Cafe. You can find more information about the show and links to the things that Megan and I talked about at thecitadelcafe.com. Music for the show was composed by Kevin MacLeod. You can email us at thecitadelcafe@gmail.com. Find us by name on Twitter and Facebook. And you can subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform, iTunes, Android, Stitcher, and Spotify. And hey, one of the ways that you can help boost the show, if you're not a patron, you can review us on those platforms. So there's always a spot on these subscription platforms to say, 4 to 5 stars or 5 out of 5 stars, or I like the show, it's really cool, you should listen. Those reviews actually bump podcasts up into the discoverability for other people that haven't yet heard about us yet. So next to poking someone in the arm and saying, hey, you should listen to the show, writing us a review on your platform of choice goes a long way as well. So please go ahead and do that if you have the time. My name is Joel Duggan. You can find everything I am doing online, including my illustration and design portfolio at joelduggan.com. Don't forget to tune into my other podcasts, Comics Coast to Coast, where I interview comic creators, illustrators, and animators, and The Spawn Chunks, where I podcast with my friend Johnny about Minecraft. You can also follow me on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube with just my name, Joel Duggan. Megan, where can people find you online?
People can find me online at Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Megan Townsend. And if you want to follow my personal project, The Heir of Keldanan, that is also on Instagram as well.
You've been listening to the Citadel Cafe, where we are fast, easy, and cheap, but you can only pick two.